Hi everyone. Thanks again for joining me for this video about organizational behavior theory. It's great to have you here. Today we're going to talk about the human element of organizations. To start off, I should note that it would be nice if organizations could always be run like machines, as was assumed in the scientific management approach. Unfortunately, organizations are made up of human beings. Individuals are not simply a cog in a machine, and managers can't just press a button to make employees accomplish the tasks related to the goals of a factory, business, or government agency. It's therefore necessary to understand people and the art of management, and not just the science. We have 3 learning objectives today. The goal of this video is to help you become familiar with research conducted on working conditions in the Western Electric Company, Abraham Maslow and his important hierarchy of needs, and third, other work on the Human Relations School as espoused by Mary Parker Follett. So, let's begin. It's a well-known fact that companies generally want to make money. The leaders of businesses therefore desire to run their organizations as effectively as possible. In the early to mid-1920s, a number of studies about worker productivity took place at the Western Electric plant near Chicago, Illinois. Known as the Hawthorne Factory, this facility manufactured telephones, cables, and other communications transmission equipment. The owners and managers wanted to know if and how they could optimize productivity of the 35,000 men and women who worked in the plant. After obtaining permission of various employees, those conducting the research focused on a few key variables: the effect of lighting on the factory, the impact of work breaks, and the consequences of pay incentives. Let's talk about each one in turn. One assumption managers had was that improved lighting in the factory would increase productivity. Several workers were sent to a test room and additional illumination was added to see if it made a difference as compared to the darker locations in other parts of the factory. Another assumption was that the physical well-being of workers could also make a difference in productivity. According to Elton Mayo, the conditions of the factory were changed during the study. Working days and the work week were shortened in some cases. Different periods of rest were also introduced, along with the provision of coffee, soup, and other food to help workers have enough energy to complete their demanding responsibilities. A third assumption was that the employees would work harder if pay was based on productivity. Therefore, pay incentives were given to some employees to see if this would be the case. The findings of this series of studies generally indicated that productivity rose regardless of what variables were introduced in the factory. Some of the difference may have resulted from how the tests were set up, so the methodology of these studies was criticized. For instance, the test room was separated from other workers and was fairly quiet. It had more hospitable working conditions, and women in this location developed deep friendships with other workers. In addition, the supervisors in the test room were friendly and very different than the authoritarian foreman in the rest of the factory. As researchers examined the results, they realized that there were a few unanticipated factors at play. First, the simple fact that the researchers were there watching employees work may have encouraged them to be more productive than they would be otherwise. In 1958, Henry Landsberger called this the Hawthorne effect, named after the factory. It was revealed that having someone look over your shoulder frequently can influence how people behave. Furthermore, the study promoted a great deal of interaction between employees and managers on how to make the work environment more conducive to productivity. Workers were given an opportunity to shape how the company was being run, and managers were listening attentively to what they were saying. Thus, through the studies, it was realized that if managers are closely monitoring workers and allowing employees to share opinions about how to improve working conditions, productivity may increase. Simply put, the human element of interaction was introduced in these studies as a key factor in organizational behavior. This is definitely a major lesson managers need to keep in mind as they oversee organizations. Several years after the research was conducted at the Western Electric Company, another major theoretical advancement was introduced by Abraham Maslow, one of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century. After immigrating to the United States, this shy young man spent a lot of time at the library. He attended the University of Wisconsin and wanted to apply psychology to resolve real-world problems, such as helping the United States military understand their German enemies in order to bring peace back to the world. After becoming a faculty member at various universities, he introduced what is known as the hierarchy of needs. Maslow asserted in his theory that the most basic needs humans have are physical. People require food, shelter, sleep, resources, and security. These needs must generally be met before other goals can be pursued. The argument is simple. If we cannot survive physically, nothing else really matters. After basic physical needs are met, Maslow believed that people desired social connections to include belonging, prestige, and recognition. The major point here is that people want more than just to survive. They also want social relationships that are rewarding. Finally, if all of the physical and social needs are met, people would be able to concentrate on self-actualization. This concept is a little bit more difficult to understand, but it implies personal growth, achieving one's potential, and finding self-fulfillment. In other words, self-actualization suggests the desire people have to leverage all of their strengths to full use. Thus, Maslow suggested that the spiritual aspirations, as he called them, were a key aspect of one's psyche and behavior. Maslow's hierarchy of needs was one of the most influential perspectives relating to human psychology. Although it has been criticized, particularly in terms of the sequential nature of the hierarchy, it does have significant applicability to the management of private, public, and nonprofit organizations. People need money to live. They desire to get along with their coworkers, and, if these needs are met, workers would like to contribute and make a difference for themselves and others. If managers can keep these principles of psychology in mind, they are more likely to have successful organizations. As can be seen, the theories relating to organizational behavior were changing in the early 1900s from a focus on scientific management related to industrial production to general management and then the needs of employees. One of the most influential theorists of this era was Mary Parker Follett. She studied at the University of Cambridge and was a well-known social worker. She also made a name for herself, not only because she was a very popular female consultant in what was a male-dominated work environment, but also because of the unique contributions she made to organizational theory. Let's explore her thoughts in some detail. One of the topics Follett wrote about was leadership. She asserted that leaders perform vital functions such as defining objectives, coordinating activities, and anticipating what changes are needed in the organization. She also mentioned that leaders could acquire and utilize 3 types of power. First, leaders could apply the power based on their position. Second, leaders could also wield power associated with their personality. Finally, leaders could utilize power that comes from their knowledge and skills relating to various functions. Thus, Follett helps leaders to understand how they can influence the employees they work with. Follett likewise believed that managers must understand their employees and work collaboratively with them. Rather than rule from above, Follett believed that managers must carefully integrate employees into how the organization is run. She advocated for the application of the concept of participative democracy, suggesting that decision-making can be decentralized. She asserted that employee engagement would increase the effectiveness of the organization. In addition, she promoted 4 other principles related to management. Conscious attitude was the first one. Managers should be fully aware of what they're asking their employees to do. Second, responsible attitude. Managers must decide who they will delegate to. Third, experimental attitude. Managers should be open to trying new ways of doing things. And fourth, Follett mentioned that managers should follow up on results. They should evaluate progress and determine which methods are best for any given situation. Conflict was another topic addressed in Follett's work. Follett asserted that conflicts in organizations are likely to occur because people will always have different opinions. She stated that conflicts are not necessarily bad in and of themselves. Disagreements illustrate problems and could be used as a way to find solutions. Follett believed that all parties could win as new policies are adopted, assuming the organization approaches conflict in productive ways. In essence, she mentioned the need to discuss differences instead of ignoring them. Follett asserted that listening to others is vital, and she believed that different groups could find solutions for the organizations that they were working in. Overall, Follett's work was groundbreaking. It suggested a new way to run organizations. Rather than mandate from above, managers need to engage with workers. The goal is not to have power over employees, but share power with workers. She believed this would improve the decision-making and organizational effectiveness. Follett's ideas have had a profound impact on businesses and public organizations in the United States, England, Japan, and elsewhere. Warren Bennis stated, "Just about everything written today about leadership and organization comes from Mary Parker Follett's writings and lectures." To conclude, organizational behavior theory has changed significantly over time. Studies and the theoretical research indicates that the supervision of employees and attention given to working conditions can improve productivity. Leaders and managers may help organizations by meeting the physical, psychological, and other needs of employees. Finally, the work of Mary Parker Follett indicates that leaders and managers can integrate employees in how an organization is run, and this may augment effectiveness. In short, understanding the human element is necessary to influence organizational behavior. Well, I hope the information in this video was helpful. Please give a like if that was the case. Best regards and best wishes.